Well, voluntary OTAs are done. There's just a week's worth of mandatory minicamps left for us to see before the Saints and a certain podcast host go on vacation and leave us to wonder what will happen later this summer and into the fall. That's right, boys and girls. We are just a little over 6 weeks away from the start of training camps. We have spent most of the past few weeks lamenting whether Derek Carr, the new scheme of Clint Kubiak, can navigate through a muddled offensive line. But no, today we asked Larry Holder, the Athletic, whether the black and gold can find a way to improve a thin defensive front. Notice all the positivity we have here. That wasn't very good against the run or in its pass rush last season. It's got to be something good we can talk about. We'll also have some early predictions in our top surprise teams in 2024 and a couple of disappointments too. Hang around. We'll have something good to talk about, I promise, coming up next on the Dattitude podcast.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there who forgot the NBA Finals started last night. Did I just remind you? Yeah. Am I the only one who's tuned out on this NBA season? Please tell me. If I'm the only one, then please tell me. What I will tell you is that this is Dattitude, episode number 248 for a, by the way, presented by Evangeline Securities, of course, for a Friday, June the 7th, 2024. I am your host, Jim Derry, whether you are watching on one of our NOLA.com social media channels or listening to the podcast. As always, every day, I thank you, truly thank you for being a part of the show and being a part of the Dattitude family. Yeah, I haven't been able to get into. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get into it. It's just been rough. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the NBA today. I can promise you that. But if you want to talk to us, we would love for you to be a part of the show. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, whatever it is, we will show your comment on the screen. We'll talk about it. We're going to talk about it with Larry Holder of The Athletic, who's coming up in just about, 7 or 8 minutes. He'll be on the show. We're going to talk about the struggling Saints defensive line with their depth. There are positive things we're going to talk about. And I joke about keeping it positive. I mean, I'm only half joking. But you can see why I've been leading into what I have a problem with going into the season. I'm trying to keep it real. Someone gave me grief. Someone actually sent me a message and gave me grief that I'm not a fan. You can't be a fan if saying some of the things you're saying. I'm not here to be a fan. I mean, again, I'll tell you this as I always tell you. I mean, of course, I want them to win. It makes for a better show. It makes for most of the people who watch this show a happier life. I mean, let's be real. I mean, most of the people who watch this show, if the Saints win on Sunday, they're in a better mood on Monday or Tuesday. Same with LSU. Same with for some Tulane. It is what it is. I get that. So I'm not rooting against them. I'm not rooting for them to lose. I'm just telling you what I think I see right now. And what I see is, so far, and we said it yesterday, there is reason for optimism in certain places. But what I see so far is cause for concern. There's a lot to be concerned with. We're going to get into all that with Larry. We're also going to talk about, we're going to go through the schedule again. We're going to talk about early upset possibilities. Which of those teams that we've been talking about? Remember what we said. We think the Saints need to start at least 2-3 to be set up to have a potential to be successful. Where, other than Carolina, which we know is a must-win, where among those next 4 games do we think the Saints have the best chances to win? We're going to talk about that with Larry. We're also going to talk about what do we think are our best chances, our best teams, our surprise teams like the Texans were last year? Who's going to be the biggest chances to give us a surprise in 2024. And who are the biggest disappointments possibilities? Not going to be the Saints. The Saints, they wouldn't fall into the disappointment category anyway. They're plus 340 to win the division. That doesn't count. Someone who is like even money to win the division, maybe or around that, and looks like, maybe they'll fall off the cliff a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. So we told you how to join the show and leave your comments if you're listening after the fact, because you can. If you want to just listen to this as a podcast, we're on every major podcast platform, including Apple and Spotify. You can send me a comment via email, jderry@theadvocate.com. And also a reminder, if you haven't done so already, we've done really well with subscriptions to our YouTube page this week and late last week. We ask you to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Easy to find. It's the only place you can find Dattitude on YouTube. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. Real quick, the NBA Finals. I told you I wasn't going to spend a lot of time talking about this. And I don't know why I've tuned out, because I watched, not just because the Pelicans were in, and I thought the first round was actually exciting. The Pelicans got knocked out. I did continue to watch for a little bit. I don't know if it was teams like the Pacers that helped tune me out, but I would have rather seen the Sixers go further. I think Sixers-Celtics would have been a much more interesting series than Pacers and Celtics on the East side of things. The East doesn't move me at all. It really doesn't. And so, I don't know. I've never been a big Mavericks fan, so maybe that's why I've tuned out as well. I think if Denver were winning, if Jokic were playing, Jamal Murray, I think I might be more excited and more inclined to watch. I don't know. I just haven't been able to watch. And you look at the score last night, 107-89. I'd like to know what their ratings were. For the Mavs, they get 30 from Doncic. When your star player scores 30 and the rest of your team scores 59, you're probably in trouble. Meanwhile, for the Celtics, they do what they do. 6 players scored in double figures, none over 22, a very balanced team. Are you going to watch the rest of the series? I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's just tough. I mean, I want to care. Gabe says he stopped caring when his Thunder got eliminated. Yeah, it's hard to get excited. I can see you guys are thrilled. I've got no comments on this. No one cares. I get it. It's all right. So let's move on. You know what? I'd rather spend a quick moment telling you about real quick are our friends who can help make this show possible. That's Evangeline Securities. You might want to know what I'm going to say by now. That's a good thing. Because then if you're pondering selling your business, or you can help out a friend or family member by passing along the info that they might be looking for, you can tell them that they need to get in touch with managing directors Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt. What can they do for someone who is ready to move on to the next phase of their lives? Someone who's been thinking about this for a long time, maybe decades? Well, the people at Evangeline Securities will start off with a complimentary service that includes the detailed evaluation of your business to figure out its worth. It's impossible to know what it's worth without a detailed evaluation. That's what they'll do. Then, and only then, if you decide to proceed, Nick and Ron will find you a buyer by beginning an extensive auction process that involves established private equity funds from across the world. They will maximize the return process for the founder of your family and the founder's family. You spend a month on the beach? Hell, you want to move to the beach? Talk to Nick and Ron. I'm not guaranteeing you that they can make that happen, but I can guarantee they will work their tails off to find out if it's possible. We'll tell you more about them and about Evangeline Securities before today's Extra Point. In the meantime, check out my friends at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Real quick, you see, we talked about what's coming up in the show. Also, the Extra Point, going back 33 years. 33 years. LSU's first baseball title. Happy Friday, Jerry. Where you been? Good to see you. Brian Pearson. What do I think about Saints OTAs so far? We're about to get into that in just a minute. Mike's making a prediction already. Saints are going to go 8-9 this year. 8-9 is better than what I'm predicting. Let's get to the man, the myth, the legend, our Friday compadre, if you will, during the football season. Larry Holder, what's up?
I was just wondering where you got that promo pic of mine. Was it like a Christmas card or a family portrait?
Yeah, I stole it off of Facebook. I didn't like
It
the other
certainly
one.
looks like something I took like with a sweater and like it was like a photo shoot. There's no
I would
question, like
just
in City Park.
I just wish you would have had a sweater vest on. That would have been cool.
I don't get a sweater vest. Like, why don't you have sleeves? Like, just wear sleeves.
Because
Like,
you don't need sleeves in New Orleans.
I don't do sweater vests. Can't.
You don't do, you know. Why not? I just think it would look good.
They're pointless. Like, why? Your arms are still going to be cold.
Gabe says, like Jim Tressel. What about the sweater? Jim Tressel sweater vest.
Exactly. That's the point.
Let's have some fun.
Jim Tressel.
Let's have some fun here this morning. Maybe we'll make a trade in our baseball league here before we get off the air. I don't know. But first, let's talk about
tight race except for you. Tight race except for you.
It's El Stinko. I don't remember the last time I had 2 El Stinko years, but my team's falling apart, and the one big piece I had, Ronald Acuna, is out for the season. So that's where I'm. But like Cat Terrell used to say, nobody cares about our fantasy baseball team. So let's talk about the team they do care about, the New Orleans Saints. And, we've been spending a lot of time the past several weeks talking about the offense and lamenting whether Clint Kubiak's scheme is going to work for this team. And the last few weeks, they're doing all this install on the offense. But today we're going to talk about defense. And I'm not trying to be Captain Negative. I'm not trying to be Derry Downer. I'm save Derry Downer for September.
I love when you use that disclaimer because it means you are.
I mean, it got put on me by D Squared. Our old friend Dave DeCorbier gave me that moniker, and it's kind of stuck. But look, I'm just telling it like it is, or the way that I think it is. And I think there are problems on the defensive line, especially if Chase say that 10 times fast. If Chase Young can't come back in time for the start of the regular season, he may or may not. But the depth, there is not a lot of depth there. And if they have one more injury, I think they're in a whole world of hurt. And already, Larry, last year, 21st against the run, and they had trouble getting to the quarterback, 4th worst in the league in sacks in 2023.
Well, if you're basically going with the same parts with a Chase Young that you don't know how he's going to play. Like, he had a good season last year. Like, I think if there's the disclaimer, like if he was healthy, you'd probably feel a little bit better about him because he did have a good season last year coming back with the Commanders and then moving over to the 49ers. So I thought that if you look at it on the surface, it's a sneaky good signing, but if he wasn't hurt, maybe more teams would have been involved to go get him. So that might have been something that you got to consider. But when you look at the defensive line, you come and discover, Tano Passing, out for the year. Well, guess what? There's a reason why they went out and gambled on Chase Young, and you need players like Isaiah Foskey. I know he's been written about by you guys this week, and Peyton Turner. Like, you need those guys to be something. Like, right now, they've been nothing. And so what do you have? Carl Granderson, who, look, he's essentially your future. You made him your future.
No doubt.
Your present and future. And then Cam Jordan, whose numbers are sagging. I mean, that's the thing. And you need Brian Brzee to be a number 1 first-round pick type of guy. And so it's I think you're spot on to have concerns there because that unit really hasn't been a major concern in the past. And look, you told me to do some homework, and it's funny that you brought this up because I've done a couple of deep dives league-wide the last few weeks looking at wide receiver cores around the league. This week, it's been running back groups around the league. Next week, it's going to be pass rush groups. And so might as well give you a little bit of a preview here. I mean, you mentioned the Saints. Look, they were 28th in the league last year, only 34 sacks. They were 22nd in pass pressure percentage, so still bottom third of the league. They were 30th in quarterback hits last year. Like, ouch. 30th. Like, that's you're not even – I mean, look, the only 2 teams that were worse were Carolina and Arizona.
Same in the league.
I mean, that's
one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the league. Yeah.
Right. And so that's not where you need to be. I mean, and when you're talking about, man, we've got all these question marks offensive wise. The defense has kind of been the calling card the last few years. And look, the pressure numbers have dropped kind of each year because they were elite, and now they've kind of slipped and slipped and slipped. And now you're kind of grasping at straws. So yeah, I'm curious to see if this element can improve. Otherwise, if you have questions offensively and your defense isn't as good, you mentioned 8 and 9, that might be optimistic, because if the defense can't hold water, I mean, you can't lean on the offense quite yet.
Well, and that's all that's all the people who have been positive will say. And they talk about Dennis Allen. He's a great defensive coordinator, but not a good head coach. And, I'm not sure that I'm not trying to give him too much grief. And I do think he is a good defensive coordinator. So let me get that out of the way right now. But the personnel that this team has chosen to go with over the past few years is not putting him in the greatest position. Sure, I think the Saints defensive backfield is one of the better defensive backfields in the league, especially if Marshawn Lattimore comes back. I'm not 100% sure that he is. And I know that I said before that I thought we would find out early in June whether he would be a part of this team or not. But until I see him out there banging his head around, then somebody's going to have to convince me that he's a part of this team. But, the scariest thing that you said so far was that they're going to have to rely on someone like an Isaiah Foskey or a Peyton Turner. Can those two guys step up and be good? Sure, they could be, but they haven't shown me one thing yet that has led me to believe that will happen.
You drafted them to play and to play a significant role, and none of them have. I mean, look, Foskey's year one, but look, Peyton Turner's a bust. End of story. I mean, we haven't – this is – look, I don't want to say it's okay. It's not worse than Marcus Davenport because you traded up to go get Davenport, but you missed on the prospect. You thought you were smarter than everyone else, and guess what? You weren't. That was a bad call. I don't care if he comes back and is even an average player. You missed out on spots where he should have been playing. He's not. So what? He's a bust. And so what do you do from there? You're leaning on those guys. You're leaning on Chase Young, who banged up. Had one good year his rookie year, played better last year, but still banged up. All of these are gambles. Where's the sure thing? The only sure thing, I guess, what you would say is Carl Granderson, but what's his ceiling? I don't know what his ceiling is. It might not be. It's probably not 15 sacks. That's probably not his ceiling.
Larry, the problem is that I think Carl Granderson's great, and I think he's been a great surprise. He's done better than I think most people expected him to do. He's become in my opinion, one of the better defensive ends in the league. The problem is you talk about Cam Jordan declining. Now, look, Cam Jordan is still Cam Jordan, but he proved last year that he kind of took that first step towards, okay, I'm moving towards the end of my career last year. I thought so. Again, I love Cam Jordan. One of the greatest Saints that's ever been. But, okay, you got Carl Granderson and Cam Jordan. And you're even talking about the interior line. Shepard's fine. Saunders is fine. Brisset may be fine. But fine's not good enough. I mean, and you look at the numbers that I was looking on PFF, and the numbers actually aren't fine. The interior of the Saints line was – both of those guys were in the 40s, those guys who start. And that's not good enough. I mean, 21st against the run, you have to be able to stop the run. The favorite in this division is Atlanta. Who does Atlanta have? Bijan Robinson. I promise you he's going to be used way more than he was used last year. And so you go into this season – is Tampa Bay's running game going to be better? We'll see. Is Carolina's running game going to be better? We'll see. But I mean, to beat the best in this division, Atlanta right now on paper, you got to be able to stop a Bijan Robinson, and I don't know that the Saints can do that.
Well, the Saints were fortunate last year that their run defense wasn't as good because all three of those units their running back cores were bad. None of them were good. Tampa's was the worst in the NFL.
Tampa's pretty bad, yeah.
You could go right now, just quick pitch. You can go to The Athletic, have my NFC outlooks at running back rooms, and Tampa's dead last in all the metrics that I was using. Maybe second to last in one of them. So I mean, we're talking about running the ball. Atlanta, they should have a different kind of format of how they're going to operate. You got better quarterback play that helps, and that would open up the running game and vice versa. I would expect Atlanta to be better there. Well, I mean, look, I'm going to bring up Cam Jordan and his numbers, and this is not the same Cam Jordan. And you mentioned, okay, this is him maybe taking a step back. It sure seems that way. I'll just put some of this into perspective. Look, pass pressure percentage in the NFL last year, He was 84th in the league, 10.7%.
Wow.
So that's about average, a little bit better than average, but you're including
84th.
Ends and defensive tackles. So a lot of defensive tackles kind of populate the back end of these rankings because they're not in positions to do it. But I'll just put you in some other perspective. So he took 420 pass rush snaps last year. So that's 56 in the NFL, but that's regular. I mean, he played 17 games. They were actually rotating him a little bit more than probably because of age. But here's where the numbers that kind of might freak you out and say, oh, gosh, how much can you
I'm already freaked out.
Well, you're going to get worse. So we know he only had 2 sacks last year. That's 134th in the league. He only had 5 quarterback hits last year in 420 pass rush snaps.
No wonder why I haven't seen this. I haven't seen that a lot lately. Jerry says, welcome. Welcome. Welcome.
I've been here once or twice.
Mark Satanovich has got a few comments on here, but I'm going to show the ones that are what we're talking about. Dennis Allen is going to have the defense ready. Hey, if you want to be positive, keep it positive, brother.
You better have him ready for weeks 1 through 4, right?
Positive. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Is this Cam Jordan's last year?
It very much could be. I mean, look.
If you have another year like this, like what you just talked about, Cam Jordan's not the kind of guy that seems to me that wants to hang around and see those kinds of numbers, right? I mean, you got to know that they look at their numbers. I mean, I don't think that's acceptable to him. And it's not for lack of giving it everything he's got, because that's who Cam Jordan. I didn't realize that, he was talking about the 2011 team not too long ago. And I'm like, damn, defensive ends don't usually make it in the league that long, especially with the same team. So we're going into 2024. He was on the 2011 team, which a lot of people say is the greatest Saints team that there ever was. And they didn't win the Super Bowl. So depends on how you judge it. But if you just go by numbers, it probably was the best Saints team ever. And so, but he was on that team. So here we are in 2024. I mean, my kid's going to be a teenager in a couple months. She wasn't even born. She was just born. I
think Cam Jordan had 1 sack that year too, which is funny. He was an every down player, but he didn't have big production that year. But you think back, and here's the thing: Cam Jordan has a future outside of playing. Like he will
for
be,
sure.
That's the thing. Like, so that's waiting for him. Like there's no question he will be thanked and welcome to any network that's out there.
Oh,
great
absolutely.
Personality. He's already been working. So that's there for him. But I do think I agree with you. I mean, I've known him for long enough that he's not going to just keep playing and drag down. He doesn't want to be dragged down in his career. And that's the thing. Like he is a borderline Hall of Famer, like Pro Football Hall of Fame. Like he's in that conversation. It might take a little bit of work, but he has the numbers to get in. It's just a matter of how does he get in? He's not say that surefire, like first ballot.
I don't think he's first ballot, but I think he's in the Hall of Fame. I think
he has the numbers to get in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going to be a bit of a battle for him, kind of like Jari Evans. I think both belong. But let's just think back to that 2011 draft. Just thinking, I know I'm maybe veering topics here, but just think about how long he's actually lasted in the league. And I'll just name to you, say the first round guys, because that draft class was loaded first round defensive wise, and even beyond that. But you've got Von Miller still playing from that first round.
Barely.
You've got Patrick Peterson. I mean, is Julio Jones?
God, that was that long ago?
Yeah, Julio
Patrick
Jones.
Peterson?
I think he's technically still active. Tyron Smith,
so.
Blaine Gabbert, Cam, and then Cam Hayward from that draft. Like other players. Yeah, other players we're talking about who are not playing anymore. We'll just talk defensive end wise, say in the first round, or defensive line like Muhammad Wilkerson. You look at Adrian Claiborne, Ryan Kerrigan, Robert Quinn, Nick Fairley was in that class. J.J. Watt was in that class. Alden Smith, Marcel Darius, like Cam Newton, A.J. Green. It was that class. And then he's still fighting.
Cam Newton. That was that long ago too. Man, we're getting old. Look, he is fighting that fight, but another thing that you said that was scary as a transition is You talked about Tampa Bay was dead last in the league in rushing last year and could be again. 21st against the run. So if you played them twice and they're dead last, that's factoring into your numbers. So maybe your number is even worse than what you're showing here. Like I'm not trying to cherry pick bad things. I'm just telling you that you're talking about two teams that couldn't run the ball last year, Carolina and Tampa Bay, and that's 4 of your 17 games. And yet you were still 21st against the run.
I mean, Atlanta was bad too. So,
Atlanta was bad because they didn't know how to use Bijan Robinson, but that's a whole different.
Well, they
story.
also had awful quarterback play. Like they
had shoddy line play too.
I think their offensive line is not an issue in Atlanta. So that's the thing. Their quarterback play is terrible, and obviously the coach, like the formula didn't work. I expect all of it to be better. They got better skill position wise too at receiver. So like you add all that up, there's a reason why they're the favorite. But still, no team had a good running game. Like Carolina, they went out and drafted. Oh gosh, who was it off the top of my head? I think it's Jonathan Brooks. I think, and then they had a Rashad Perry. And look, Miles Sanders was a bust. And look, their quarterback play was a bust. So when you look at it all, that's the thing. You played in the worst rushing division in the NFL. And you still weren't that great at run defense. So that's I'm not trying to feed into it, but you're bringing it up, and I'm just telling you kind of the old is what it is type of deal here.
Well, if you're going forward and you're trying to, like, where are you going to get better? How are you going to get better? And that's kind of where I'm going with all this and talking about where they were last year. Whenever you look at a team that you expect to be better, okay, so do we think they're going to be better offensively? I don't know. I think they will eventually. I don't know how long the leash is on this entire coaching staff. So, Clint Kubiak's like throwing himself into a fire. I mean, if this team is terrible, and I'm not saying they're going to be terrible. I mean, I don't, if you've been listening, you know what I think. But if say this turns out to be a bad year, it's a 6-11 kind of year, 7-10 kind of year, and they do have to let Dennis Allen go. I mean, does Clint Kubiak have to start over again somewhere else? I think the install that he's putting in. And I'm not trying to jump topics here, and we've been all over the place this morning, but if this install takes time and it takes you the course of a year for this team to start feeling comfortable with it, but they have a bad year and Dennis Allen is let go, then what happens with Clint Kubiak? Do you start all over? Do you bring in a head coach that, is okay with Clint Kubiak? Does Clint Kubiak become the coach? I mean, there's all sorts of questions here that I think are just so strange. This team is this might be the weirdest offseason, just thinking about what this team might be going forward. And it stems from the head coach, in my opinion.
Well, I think it stems more than that, too. Do you completely trust Derek Carr to lead you to the promised land? I mean, that's quarterbacks.
Most people don't.
Right. Quarterback's always a topic. Do I think he's good enough within this division? And if this team can kind of get its act together to win a division, yes. But I mean, are you shooting to be a playoff team, or are you shooting to be beyond? And so that's the thing. If they regress, I think moves like you can't.
They have to be made.
They have to be made. Like 9-8 was good enough to save Dennis's job. If you go back to 7-10, you gotta need a clean slate, coach, quarterback. I can't see that just being meandering. I just think here's the thing. I think people are just whatever as it is right now. Just like, all right, the Saints are whatever. I mean,
there are some positive people out there, believe it or not.
Well, I'm sure there are some, but I feel like the sense I get is, all right, the Saints are going to play. We'll see. I don't know.
A-Town isn't positive. He's sticking to his 5-12 or 6-11 at best for this team. Okay, that leads me to move on to the next topic and sort of getting away from the defense. I think we never talked about the defensive backfield, but I think that you and I both agree that not only is this the strength of the defense, that especially if Lattimore stays again, which I'm not convinced that he's going to stay. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll stay, and if he does stay, maybe he'll stay healthy, and maybe he won't. So we'll see how that goes. But regardless, I still think the defensive backfield is obviously the strength of this team. They're going to have to be. When you look at this schedule, especially early on, I haven't talked to you about this. I don't think you've been on since the schedule was released. But you look at how this starts, and I want you to pick me out, besides Carolina, what are those first 5 games, again, not Carolina, so 2 through 5, among those games, which one are they going to win? Or which 2 are they going to win?
You could win at Atlanta. I'm not saying none of them are guarantees. I mean, look, Carolina might not even be a guarantee. I don't know. But still, I mean, of those, at Atlanta would be the most winnable. Now, here's the thing. I am curious. You're talking about offensive install, this, that, and the other. They're going through that in Philadelphia right now.
Yes, they are.
Comments from Jalen Hurts. He says it's like 95% different. I'm sure the only play they left in was the tush push, and Jason Kelsey's not even there to help do that anymore. So there you go. But it's not like Philadelphia is going to come in and be the most unbeatable team in the NFL. Do I think they're still going to be very good and one of the better teams in the NFC? No doubt. I still think Dallas can be good. I mean, look, Dallas and Philadelphia.
But they don't have odds. One thing about
decking.
Dallas is, though, Larry, is they don't really have a running game at the moment.
No.
I mean, maybe they'll change things, and maybe they won't. But so I think Dallas might be your best bet. And I know that they've been 12-5 the past 2 years, but is Dallas going to regress? We're going to talk about teams that we think 2 teams that we like to be a surprise and 2 teams that could be a disappointment. Well, spoiler alert, I think Dallas could be one of those teams that's not as good as they've been, because I don't know that they can run the football.
I mean, look, Ezekiel Elliott is their top back right now.
Exactly.
He's back.
He did so good last year in New England.
Yeah, Tony Pollard's fighting for playing time, trying to beat out Tyjae Spears in Tennessee now. But yeah, it's definitely a Dak Prescott led type of offense right now. With it's definitely running back by committee in Dallas right now. And look, they've got the heat is always on them, but the heat is really on. I mean, it's really on for Dak Prescott to get them further than he's ever taken them before. And can the defense bounce back from being just totally embarrassed by the end of the season? So
it's not just the Saints that have problems.
Definitely not just the Saints that have problems. Hey, well, here's the thing: like Dallas had bigger expectations and they floundered. So hey, you got to look at it one way or the other. But
my friend Larry Holder here with us this morning. Sorry, Larry. On the Dattitude podcast, presented to you by Evangeline Securities on this Friday morning. We're talking about right now Saints schedule. We're trying to find victories. All right. I've asked other guests, and I want to ask you the same thing. Okay, we're talking about games that the Saints could win. And look, other than Kansas City, I don't think any of those first 4 teams are teams that the Saints can't beat, right?
I'd agree.
And for different reasons. We talk about Dallas, no running game. Philadelphia, again, I agree. Their offensive install, how long is it going to take them to get adjusted?
Their defense wasn't very good by the end of the year.
Agreed. And Atlanta, one thing I've said about Atlanta is, even though they have a lot of things to get adjusted to as well, and actually, even though they have the easiest schedule in the NFL, and by my formula, I've said this, not only the easiest schedule this year in the NFL, but the easiest schedule of the 3 years that I've been doing this formula. The number comes out to the lowest number that I've ever had in the 3 years of doing this. That being said, they do have a tough start to the schedule. They got to play Pittsburgh. I know they got to play Philly, and they play, I think, Tampa Bay in week 3. So those are not, that's a tough start. They could easily be 0-3. If they start 0-3, even 1-2, they could come into that game in week 4 in Atlanta, and it could be Saints could be 1-2, maybe 2-1, and it could be a battle of, look, the team that wins this game is going to be in a decent shape for the rest, to start going, because both their schedules get easier, or they can be in a position to where, hey, this is a really rough start. Can we dig out of this hole?
Yeah, it's not like this is a guaranteed, oh my gosh, you're going to be 1-4. Like that's not the case. Like,
yeah,
everything you're saying is right. Everything you're saying, like, they're good enough to beat these teams, but you got to,
agree.
Things have to fall their way in certain points, and they've got to execute. I mean, they're good enough to beat any of these teams. Obviously, Kansas City, every one of us is going to chalk that up as a loss. But stranger things have happened.
Oh, no. No.
The Raiders beat Kansas City last year at KC.
That's because they're their division rivals. I mean, I don't have their numbers in front, but when's the last time they lost to a mediocre non-division team, especially at home? That ain't happened. Rocky's.
I'd have to go look it up.
Rocky's positive. He says the Saints start 3-3 and finish 10-7. So there you go. We got a positive. He's
look, and I'm not going to discount that. Like I don't think that's a poor outlook.
It's not unrealistic.
Say you beat Carolina, Atlanta, and Tampa, and if you lose the others, you're 3-3, and the rest of the schedule's you're not playing world beaters.
I agree.
I'm not saying they're going to be terrible. I do think though that they can't be 1-4 and
you can't be.
Can't
no, you go 1-4, you're done. You're toast. You might as well figure out what's going to. If they're 1-4, they're toast. This team can't come back from 1-4. You and I both go on Fox 8 quite often. I was on the final bet a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about it. And here is a positive. Okay, I told you I was going to find something that was positive. This division still isn't very good. Okay, so if you can find a way to go 4-2 or even 5-1 against your division, okay, which is possible. Again, the Saints to me are. Maybe they're not quite as good as Atlanta overall. I think they're as good as Tampa Bay. We'll see. Carolina may be better, maybe not. But if you can find a way to go 4-2 against your division, you got to find 6 wins elsewhere. If you can go 5-1, you got to find 5 wins elsewhere. And I think it's absolutely possible that the Saints can go 5-1 against this division, or at least 4-2, and find 6 wins elsewhere. Because you look at after that tough again, you just got to avoid a 1-4. If you can avoid a 1-4 start and go 4-2 against your division, you have a chance to win 10 games and get in the playoffs.
I would agree there. I absolutely would agree. You kind of go up, and I'm glad the schedule's like right in front of my face as we're doing.
That's
this,
why
so
I did that.
Yes, smart man, because I'm not zeroing in on the Saints schedule as much as I used to. But I mean, Denver. Who knows what they're going to be? Chargers, same thing. And then Cleveland, Giants, Washington. Look, Jaden Daniels might be the surprise of the league. I don't. Who knows? But you name all those teams.
Green Bay in December is no fun, but
no, and Green Bay is getting better. That's
a
curious. I'm just saying. Like I did the running backs outlook. Man, that is a curious. Interesting change up in the NFC North, where your lead running backs now for each team. I mean, we know Detroit is the David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, but now in Chicago it's DeAndre Swift. In New York, there's no more Saquon Barkley. I'm wrong.
Saquon's in Philly.
Yeah, Saquon's in Philly. But then you look at Green Bay is now Josh Jacobs, and Minnesota is now Aaron Jones. So you got to get out like your rosters to see who's even running the football there.
You got to get a running back abacus if there is such a thing.
That's why I did it. I was like, I need to find out where these guys are because they're Austin Eckler's with Washington.
I know.
What? Who's even in with the Chargers? I don't know.
Our
Gus
old friend
Edwards is with the Chargers. What?
Our old friend JJ's here. I don't JJ. I know you're not going to see Larry in Dallas. You're probably not going to see me in Dallas either. We'll see if I go to a road game this year. Probably not.
JJ and I caught dinner once in Dallas.
He told me that. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Larry Holder, by the way, if I did not, this is where I'm bad. I don't do this enough. Larry Holder of The Athletic, NFL beat writer, we used to work together for quite a few years. And he obviously, if you don't know, he was a Saints beat writer for many a year. Now covers the entire NFL for The Athletic, and he does a great job every week. Crunching numbers. I mean, they let a Rummel dude crunch numbers. Did they realize this?
There's a program that crunches the numbers. I just evaluate where they go. Like,
Did they let Rummel guys input things that crunch numbers? I don't know.
All I do is, hey, rush success percentage, click, and then it sorts it for me. And they make the charts, but it's dissecting what's what and what's real and what's not. So I think
all right. That sounds fair. All right, it's an early prediction. I like to put you on the spot. Early prediction. Do you think, if I had to give me a percentage, like what is the percentage? I won't ask you for a record. I'm going to ask you for a record in August. If what is the percentage right now you think that this Saints team, say they don't make any significant changes, they don't sign a David Bakhtiari, they don't do anything with their offensive line. This is their offensive line. This is their defensive line. They don't make significant changes.
Well, what is their offensive line? I need a disclaimer there.
Well, right now, their offensive line is, if I had to project, you have Taliesin Fawanga at left tackle. You got Nick Saldivari at left guard. You got Eric McCoy at center. You've got Cesar Ruiz at right guard. And right now, you got Trevor Penning at right tackle. I mean, unless something different happens, unless they sign somebody else, unless Ali Udo is healthy and that's what they decide and do some other shuffling around, that's what you got right now. I mean, I'm not going to blast them again, but people know what I think about that. I mean, what percentage do you give them of going to the playoffs?
I will say 43%.
Wow, that's positive.
43%.
Okay, you're way more positive.
They can, and that's basically saying I think they have a better shot than maybe people think in actually winning the division. So that's probably part of it there. I get it. Atlanta's the favorite, but Kirk Cousins is still Kirk Cousins.
And Falcons are still the Falcons.
And the Falcons are still the Falcons. And, oh, by the way, Tampa won the division and won a playoff game last year. But still, we saw the Saints, and it's not like they were playing exceptional football, but they manhandled Tampa toward the end of the year. So, look, I think the Saints could win the division and get to the playoffs. But, I'll say 43%.
All right,
so not better than average, not better than half, but a little bit below that.
Vegas implied odds right now are somewhere in the neighborhood of 35%. I think they're plus 170, plus 180.
A little more positive.
Yeah, a little bit more. You're a little more positive, and you're definitely more positive than I am. All right, let's move on before we let you go. And there are a lot of numbers on this screen. So if you're watching on a phone, you may have trouble seeing this. And if you're listening to the podcast after the fact, then you're obviously can't see it no matter how good your eyes are. But basically what I have on the screen right now are division odds. These are via DraftKings. So if you're looking for numbers, if you like any of these teams, I always tell people to shop around if you want to play it now or whatever. But this is more for informational purposes than it is for the betting realm, just to show you what Vegas thinks about certain teams. And you see in the NFC South, if you can't see it, Atlanta minus 115, that means they're an overwhelming favorite. That means you got to bet $115 to win 100 if you think Atlanta's going to win the division. Meanwhile, you got teams like Tampa Bay is plus 310, which means you only have to bet 100 to triple your money to get $310. Saints are plus 340. And Carolina, if you put $10 on the Carolina Panthers and they win the division, you'd get 110 in return. They are 11-1 to win the division. So I'm not just talking about the NFC South and trying to make a point to explain to people what these numbers mean. Because you never know who's new to the show and who doesn't understand betting. But Larry, of these 32 teams you see on the screen in the NFL, I'm going to ask you for two teams that you think could be big surprises this year. Give me one at a time and let's talk about them. Who's your number one team you think could surprise? Not a team like Atlanta, not a team like Detroit. I mean, they're favorites. So someone that's not a favorite on this list that can surprise people out there and say, you know what? They're going to win their division and they're going to go to the playoffs.
In a positive way?
Yeah, we want to be positive first.
Okay. Of these teams, let's go with Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Plus 850. So if Pittsburgh were to win the AFC North and Larry's right and you put $10 on it, you get $85 in return.
I mean, they didn't they make the playoffs with Mason Rudolph as the quarterback?
They did
Mason,
at the end, though.
Rudolph. Well, somehow they meandered through
Mason Rudolph didn't play the whole year,
and that might have been in a better shape if he did. But now I think that some combination of Russell Wilson or Justin Fields in that division, maybe it's going toward my thought of who could be a disappointment, and it's in that division too. So maybe that's where I'm thinking. So, all right, you want me to give you another one, or do you
I want you to give me another one.
All right, I will go in the NFC.
And I'm gonna give you mine.
And all right, so someone who could win the division, is that what you're saying?
Someone who is not a favorite who could win the division.
Green Bay.
I 100% agree.
Green Bay.
That's actually one of mine. By the way, Gabe Henderson in the background. He likes Indy at plus 310, beating out his Houston Texans. I don't like Indy at all. I don't want to go. I'm not going to.
I don't trust Anthony Richardson
not at all. I don't trust him at all. Cleveland plus 600. Okay. Anyway, I agree. Green Bay is absolutely one of my teams. I think Green Bay. I don't understand that number at all. I mean, I get this hype on Detroit because of what they did last year, but I think they're primed for a major regression. And when I say major regression, I don't mean they're going to go 6-11 or anything like that, but I don't think they're nearly as good as everybody thinks they're. Now, that being said, I will throw out there that I didn't think they were going to be nearly as good as they were last year. So, but I'm not high on Detroit at all, and I like Green Bay a lot. I do think Chicago will be better. Even though I don't agree with their decision to get rid of Justin Fields. My other surprise pick, I actually have two others real quick that I like, and I've kind of said this. The problem is other people like them too, and their numbers are probably inflated. I really like Joe Burrow. So we're going back to the AFC North.
I would have said him.
I like Cincinnati.
I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to be lights out. And I think Zach Moss running the football, you think Zach Moss, he's going to be an upgrade over Joe Mixon. Watch.
I don't disagree with that at all. I think Cincinnati now they've got to be able to protect Joe Burrow, which they have had trouble doing, and their defense needs to do a little bit better job as well. And then the other team that I like that everybody else likes as well, not that big of an underdog, so it's kind of I wouldn't say cheating, but
I went bigger underdogs, not
yeah,
Green
you
Bay.
did.
I went a big
I'm just
one.
telling. I like the Jets. We've talked about them before. If they get past San Francisco in that first game, they've got a stretch where they could win. They could start off like 6-0, 7-0, and then
Miami
they won't be
has yet
bettable.
to prove that they could beat a good team.
I don't like Miami at all.
Who are they throwing the ball to? That receiving court, that is the most fascinating renovation of the offseason to me. That receiver room, they blew it up. Like they think like Khalil Shakir is going to be probably a 100 catch guy. That's my thought. It's crazy.
Well, if you're looking for a long shot, okay, you went out on a limb, so I'll go on a limb. If you're looking for one team that has long shot odds that could win the division, I'll pick somebody that's right now got 4 digits on the screen. You liked who'd you like that? Well, you like Pittsburgh. That was plus 850, so you got 8.5 to 1. I'm going to give you a 12 to 1 shot. The New York Football Giants.
Oh no!
I think they're gonna. I am telling you right now, they're going to be much better this year. They're going to be much better.
So
that division's not near
win total.
That division isn't nearly as good as people think it is. First,
I thought you were going to say Tennessee.
No.
Will Levis, they got some weapons. Tajay
Gabe says they're the worst team.
That division's winnable.
Gabe says that the Giants are the worst team in the division.
Come on. Oh,
in Brian Daboll, I trust, baby. They got a new
last one.
They got a Wink Martindale. They're going to be much better. Danny Dimes some love. All right.
No.
All right. I'm looking for a long 12 to 1. I like it. I like the number. All right. Gabe's saying the Giants suck, but even though Daboll's good. All right.
So we're going disappointment.
We're going disappointment now. Give me one. First of all, give me a team of the teams that are favored. Give me a team that is going to regress seriously, and you don't want anything to do with them.
Baltimore.
Yep. Baltimore is definitely one of the ones I like for sure.
I would say Buffalo next. If you're looking at the teams up top,
Agree wholeheartedly.
I would say Buffalo next, just because I don't know what they're going to. I mean, look, Josh Allen's got to be the whole thing now. I mean, he already was, but my gosh, I don't trust who they got at receiver at all. So, I mean, what do you have? You have Curtis Samuel, like I said, Shakir. You drafted Keon Coleman. You got MVS. I mean, there's a reason why he's bouncing around teams. But I would say, I would look and say Baltimore, Buffalo, of the teams that are up on the top of the odds of the screen right now, Buffalo, Baltimore, I would say those two teams could easily not win their divisions. And you mentioned the Bengals. I said Pittsburgh as a long shot just to do it. I think Bengals will win that division, and the Jets could win that division.
I agree. And the reason why that division's wide open, the AFC North. So it's not like it would be a surprise if the Ravens didn't win. It's not really a surprise.
All those teams are bad. I think those teams actually they beat each other up. I think they all can be pretty good, just kind of like last year. Like I think that's why it's wide open, not mediocrity. I think they're good.
I think I agree with everything you just said about Baltimore and Buffalo. We're on the same page, which is unusual, by the way.
That is very rare.
But I'm going to give you a team that is an overwhelming favorite that I think is going to go the wrong way. I am not convinced that the 49ers are as good as everybody thinks they are. And I think the Rams are going to take a big step forward again. And I know they've got an old quarterback. They've got to find a way to replace Aaron Donald. And I get that they have issues. But you would talk about Brian Dable, I trust. Sean McVay, I trust. I think the Rams are going to be a contender in the NFC West.
It's more about the defense. I think offensively they got this thing going. And when Cooper Kupp can be your number 2.
Yeah.
And
sure.
look, Kyron Williams has to have a monster year.
I think he will.
He could. But yeah, I think the Rams can make the playoffs and be a similar type of team. But man, I'm looking at right now, and I would pick the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. So,
well, here we are on June the 7th. I think we had to have some dissension. I think the 49ers regress. Larry Holder says they.
And Brock Purdy, I trust, man. Trust me. Do you know how many people, because I did quarterback stories, I do them every week. People hammer me for trusting Brock Purdy. And he played well enough all the way through.
I don't know why they would hammer you for that.
To win the Super Bowl.
I will tell you that I think that Christian McCaffrey is due. He's played, 2 years basically injury-free? He is due. He is due for an injury. I'm not wishing anything on anyone. I'm just saying he's due. Guys that are injury-prone and go 2 years without one, I'm just saying.
Especially at that position.
Yeah, and they don't have the greatest offensive line on the planet. So I just think they're due. All right, so you like Super Bowl? You like San Francisco in the Super Bowl?
My early pick, yep.
All right, who's your early pick in the AFC?
Oh gosh. You know what?
I don't care if you pick easy because I don't until somebody knocks Kansas City off. I don't know how you'd
Homer Town. There's one person who could beat KC. That's Joey B. Let's go Bengals.
I can't argue with either one of those. I mean, the AFC has been so predictable as of late for real. I mean, except for Houston, really. They've been so predictable and it's kind of boring. It's kind of like the NBA and the Eastern Conference. It's really kind of boring.
You know who's going to be better than what people think?
Don't say the Chargers. All right, Denver. No, they're why?
I think Bo Nix is going to be good. I think Bo Nix will be good. I think he'll be a good quarterback.
There's another dissension. I think Bo Nix is
well, who would you rather, J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix?
Oh, definitely Bo Nix. 100% Bo Nix. But I think Bo Nix is – Gabe's waving his arm. J.J. McCarthy's a bum. I said it here on the air.
It's going to be bad. I think Sam Darnold's better than J.J.
I think Minnesota is a train wreck. There's a reason why they're plus 1,000. All right.
That's why J.J. got all his money to keep him happy.
In the NFC.
Elsewhere.
I'm going to tell you. Green Bay Packers.
I like Green Bay. I tell you what. I mean, they've got I kind of picked on Green Bay a little bit in my running backs just because you're thinking, man, they must just not trust Aaron Jones. He's getting up there. But, if Josh Jacobs, he's playing with a better team, he can run the football. He's got Jordan Love has 4 good wide receivers, especially if Watson can stay healthy. If Rashawn Gary can come back, be completely healthy, he's a great pass rusher. That team is ripe to make. Here's the thing. If someone wants to say unseat and upset the 49ers in the playoffs, it might be somebody like Green Bay. Yeah.
So there, it would be a fantastic Super Bowl in New Orleans, Green Bay and the Jets. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the Packers and Jets in the Super Bowl? Cut this clip out, Gabe Henderson. Could you imagine the Packers and the Jets in the Super Bowl? That's going to be my prediction.
You know what's going to
Packers
happen?
and
Brett Favre will do the coin flip, and then someone will bounty hit him, and it'll be bounties everywhere.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. It really would be. Scott
and then all Brett Favre's welfare money will start flying out of his pockets.
Look, you're writing too good of a script, man. We're gonna talk more about this in August. Have a good summer, my friend. We will have plenty to talk about, and you're good to go. You're gonna be my Friday guest again this year, right? Putting you on the spot again.
If you make it worth my while and help me win our fantasy baseball league, then yes, I will.
That's kind of collusion, isn't it? I mean, that
you're the commissioner.
Sounds like we're in politics now. I'll do this. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. All right. We'll
quid pro quo. Is that what the kids call it?
You're using way too big words for my Shaw education. Larry Holder of The Athletic, and it's fun. It's going to be Fun Friday every week during the football season. I can't wait for it.
Me too. Always good to talk to you, buddy.
Have a good summer, my friend.
You too.
Larry Holder. I mean, I'm not going to say he's my favorite guest because I'll swell his head, but he's up there. He's definitely one of them. We always have a lot of fun when Larry comes on the show. Again, he will be, once again, for the second straight year, he'll be my regular Friday guest, and we'll talk about not only what we think the Saints are going to do, but our three best bets in the NFL. Maybe not best bets. Well, what we've been doing is taking the three biggest games of the week and talking about those, and then what we think is going to happen. So we're going to actually have a show this year. I think it's going to be Thursdays. I can't decide. I can't figure out if it's going to be Wednesdays or Thursdays, but we're going to have 4 shows a week during the football season. And either Wednesday or Thursday is going to be the show where we do our predictions, kind of like we did with Bayou Bets and have our big bucks. And it's going to be a little bit different format, but we are going to have a pick show one day of the week. I think it's going to be Thursday, but we'll see. Don't want to jump ahead of ourselves, but hey, we're about to take vacation. And again, look, once I take this vacation and I tell you I will get away from my computer, I won't think about anything. I will truly get away. I don't even know if I'm going anywhere yet. I'm probably going to go out to Florida for a few days some kind of way. I'll have to figure it out. But when I get away, I decompress, and I don't care who's playing running back for the Saints, the Eagles, the Falcons. Don't think about any of it. I don't even watch a whole lot of sports when I'm on vacation. I really don't. So, but when we come back, pedal to the metal, baby. We'll have NFL previews starting right away. We'll do each team again. I don't know if I'm going to go into as much detail as I'm going to go in the past few years, but we're going to do every team. We will make predictions for every team. We'll tell you what our best values are for every team. And, of course, we'll have our regular Dattitude shows talking about the Saints. That's all coming up. I think when we leave, I think we come back. We've got next week. And next week, we've got Mike Detillier on Monday. We've got Zach Ewing, who is the Saints editor for us here at NOLA.com, coming on Wednesday. We did our draft show together. And then Friday, we're going to end this half of the year with Luke Johnson, who is our Saints beat writer. So that's our final week before vacation. And then we're gone. I think our next show after that is going to be July the 10th. So I do come back before then, but I got to get some stuff ready when I come back. So that's what you got. You got another week of Dattitude, and then we're gone for almost a month. Got to take a break. Got to decompress, because when we come back, there is no break. Come back, and I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm going to wake up, and it's going to be the Super Bowl. That's how it's going to be. All right. Today's Extra Point, about to get to it. But before we do that, let's continue our stories real quick about our friends at Evangel Securities. By the way, you don't want to go anywhere. Today's Extra Point. I know I told you yesterday about LSU baseball we're done with it. No. National championship talk. Got to talk about it. We told you how Evangel Securities work, and we stressed that if you are thinking of selling your business, you won't find anyone in Louisiana who can help you better than Evangel Securities. And you might be in a situation where you have been wondering what your business is worth. The truth is, you can't really know without the help of an expert. Now, you can have Uncle Joe. I think this thing's worth at least, $3 million? No. Don't listen to Uncle Joe. Call Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. Will be able to tell you, because how do they do it? They go through an extensive evaluation to figure out the biggest question weighing on your mind. When they finish with their extensive auction process that involves established private equity funds from across the world, they will maximize the return process for the founder of your company and for your family. Why Nick and Ron? Because they came back from the hustle and bustle of New York City to serve the people they love back home in South Louisiana. There are just so few companies like Evangeline Securities in this area, and none with their dedication and success. Beyond that, they are the top producer on their platform. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you. So when you're sipping on something with a piece of fruit hanging off the edge of the glass, you can join the comments here on Dattitude and gloat, and we'll even show pictures here on the pod while I continue to work my tail off, of course, because I was, having kids that are, 8 years old and I'm ready to retire. Oh, that's a whole another story. I'm not jealous. No, not at all. Waste no more time, my friends. We need those pictures. Contact Nick and Ron at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay, time for the extra point and wrap up today's show. Wrap up the week. What a quick, crazy week. It started off with LSU. We're going to end it with LSU. Today's extra point goes back to the beginning of an era that kicked off a 33-year run of dominance. Yeah, I know we said Thursday we're done with LSU baseball. I told you that. But what I meant was we were done with the 2024 Tigers. The only reason why Monday hurt so bad was because today's fan is spoiled. Not only do they expect to go to Omaha every year, but they expect national championships every year. There's a big reason for that. Skip Bertman. But even Skip Bertman had some detractors heading into the 1991 season. Absolutely, he did. You see, fans back then were beginning to wah, 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 because they hadn't won a title as of yet. They were becoming impatient, as LSU and Saints fans often do. Although following decades of mediocrity, LSU became a regular participant in the postseason after Bertman was hired by athletic director Bob Broadhead in 1984. Sometimes they forgot and forget. They still forget sometimes. In his second season, the Tigers won 40 games for just the second time in school history and made it to a regional for the second time ever, and then went on to make a regional in 15 of the next 16 seasons under Skip. They didn't do any of that before he was there. But appearances in the College World Series without a title began to get old for some. They made it to Omaha in 1986, 1987, 1989, and 1990. In 87, Ben McDonald gave up a 10th inning grand slam. Sorry, had to do it. Gave up a 10th inning grand slam to Stanford that ended the Tiger season. 2 years later, McDonald was blasted by Texas in the semifinals in his final collegiate game just 3 days after becoming Major League Baseball's first overall pick by then the Baltimore Orioles. In 1990, the Tigers were bombed again in the semifinals by Oklahoma State, losing 14-3. It was being said that LSU could get to the dance, but they couldn't find a date. I'll give you a date they could find. June 8th, 1991. The Tigers were the number 4 seed and breezed their way to the title game. Yep, there was just one title game. There was just one game for the championship back then. They defeated their 3 opponents, Florida, Fresno State, and Florida again, by a combined score of 42-12. Waiting for them on the other side of the bracket were the Wichita State Shockers, who had just won the CWS title in 1989 and were in Omaha for the 10th time in 12 seasons. This title game was never really close, despite the 6-3 final score. And so it began. Breaking news. The Tigers have won 6 College World Series since that first one, including some of the most dramatic games in college baseball history that inserted names such as Todd Walker, Warren Morris, Brandon Larson, Brad Cressy, DJ LeMahieu, Paul Skeens, and Dylan Cruz into LSU lore. Just as Alabama is the program many think of when NCAA football is mentioned, and UConn, Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, when you talk about men's college basketball, there is zero doubt the LSU Tigers are what other programs in college baseball strive to be. It all stems back to their first national title 33 years ago tomorrow. So while there is much to lament on what could have been this season for Jay Johnson and his Tigers, there is no doubt why LSU fans are not satisfied with how it ended. But that's a good thing. Skip Bertman put LSU baseball on the map for good on June 8th, 1991. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. That is going to wrap it up for this Friday. And for the week, it's been a busy, crazy week, as I said. I want to thank today's guest, Larry Holder. And we thank Gabe Henderson behind the scenes, of course. And we hope you can join us next Monday. We're going to have a whole lot of fun. We always have fun. Love it when Mike can join us. Mike, the great Mike Detillier, is going to be here to talk more Saints. Next week's all Saints, my friend. We may have an extra point that's not Saints. I don't even know what my extra points are next week, but otherwise, everything else is all Saints. Maybe a couple little nuggets about NFL thoughts like we did this week. We'll see. A reminder to subscribe to Scratitude. You can subscribe. I like that. I might start using that. You can subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page and click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, every major platform. You can always find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. Have a glorious, wonderful, fantastic, hot weekend. We will see you on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.